Welcome to another 10-Minute Thursday Yearbook Edition. For this week's video, I'm bringing in my good friend Brooke Renna Pang. We'll be covering phonography as it relates to photojournalism. So let's get started. Hey, Brooke.
Hey, Carlos. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yeah, no, thanks for being here. So since this is your first time on the show, can you tell us a little bit about yourself so our viewers know more about you?
Definitely. So, hi, everyone. My name's Brooke Renna Pang, and I've been doing yearbook since I was in the 6th grade, and I've just not stopped. So, I've been doing yearbook probably for more than some of you have been alive, to be honest.
That is crazy. That is a long dedication. I don't think I've even played sports that long. I jumped around way too much. So I give you props for that.
I think the only thing I've done longer is played with Legos.
And Legos are amazing. So, well, I know you have a presentation for us. So do you want to just get right into it then?
Yeah, let's get right into it. So today I'm excited to talk with you all about smartphone photography. Being in the time of COVID, and even once we get out of this, we will still be relying on our phones a lot. So I want to give you guys some tips and tricks to make sure you get the best photos you can out of your little handheld device. The first thing that you want to always be doing when you are taking photos, even if it's just taking a picture of your little brother for your mother, is to expose the photo correctly. On the slide, you'll see that I have an example for an iPhone and an Android. When you're exposing a photo on your phone, you'll tap on the screen. And for your iPhone, Apple users, you'll see this little sunburst thing. And you can click on that and move it up and down. While for Androids, when you touch on the screen and do that, you'll see the little light bulb. And again, you are able to expose that photo. You can also lock that in by double clicking on it, and it will lock that exposure. So if you move your phone around, you'll keep that same part of it. The next tip is using the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds helps add that visual interest to your photo. And on your phone, I recommend turning on the grid setting to give you that constant reminder of putting something in one of those points. You'll see here on the example, the picture of me where I'm just right in the center, not nearly as interesting looking as the other photo. Again, you usually want to have your subject in one of those points where the lines are intersecting. When I was in my college photography class, my instructor always told me to have it in either point B or point C, because when you're looking at something and you're reading, your eye automatically goes to the top and moves across, going right. So you're guiding the reader to look right at the beginning and then to the next point.
That's a cool little tip and trick for sure.
Yeah.
And kind of go off of that, how do you turn on grids on an iPhone? I'm an Android user, so for my fellow Android users, the cool part is you can actually turn it on straight from your camera. So in your camera, you can click on your settings tab and then scroll down to grid lines and then turn it right on. But for Apple users, which I'm not a fan of, but I know you are, how do you do that for iPhones?
Apple. So for Apple users, you'll actually go into the settings part on your phone. So generally, you can just search settings and then you'll search your camera settings and it'll be one of those options that you'll be able to slide on. So number 3 is the thought of showing depth of field in your photos. Again, we want your photos to look the best they can. So whatever you're learning in your normal photography classes, we're bringing right over. Showing that depth of field, again, gives your viewer a sense of what that focus should be. On your phone, you can tap on what you want that subject to be and it will focus on that specific point of interest. And then another way to easily show that is by getting lower to be able to include a foreground and a background in your photos. For iPhone users, this is super easy using the portrait mode. Android users, you can use the Pro version or Pro mode on your phones, and it's a manual version, so you're able to change your aperture. You can also use an app like Focus if you prefer doing something like that. And here's just a couple examples with people. So right now, if we're thinking for yearbook stuff, maybe your profiles or your senior superlatives, you're able to take photos like this, 6 feet apart, and get that effect going on. And of course, flowers, because they're pretty. For number 4, I want you to always consider playing with your light. Whether you're outside, inside, you need to utilize whatever light source you have to dictate the outcome of what you want your photo to look like. So for example, let's talk about golden hour. That is going to be right before sunset, which now, because our time has changed, it's earlier in the day. Woohoo! I don't have to stay up super late because I like to go to bed early. And what's really nice about golden hour is it provides a nice glow on your subject's faces, but it also creates not harsh shadows. What I mean by that is when you are taking pictures, say your family photos, and they're at noon, everyone winds up with really dark shadows under their eyes and things like that because the sun is coming from above you and it's creating those shadows. Whereas the golden hour, it's from the side and it's creating that nice glow effect. You can also take pictures during the sunrise, which now is super early. So unless you're an early bird, stick to the golden hour. But that light usually gives you a little bit of a pinker hue. Another thing, just like similar with the golden hour, is to avoid that direct light. However, typically when we're taking pictures for schools and stuff like that, it's right in the middle of the day. We can't just rely on stuff happening after the sun sets or right when the sun is setting. So trying to find things to give you a little bit of that shading. And again, because we don't want people to have dark shadows or to squint. So for this example, finding trees or overhangs or things like that will help with that whole idea. I also want to encourage you all to be looking for new and exciting angles. When you're taking pictures for your book, your goal is to show the reader something familiar in an unfamiliar way. What this means is that you're going to be constantly moving around, and of course, try to get things like the bird's view and the worm's view. A bird's view is a high vantage point. And for this, I wanted to show you that it doesn't have to be really drastic to create a major effect. You can see that the picture on the left is taken at normal height, whereas the picture on the right, just a little bit higher. And there's just a little bit more dimension and stuff going on that makes that photo look more interesting, besides just me being very excited about having built the Lego Harry Potter castle. Then for worm's view, that's from a low vantage point. Two very drastic ones. One literally on the right, I had my phone on the floor and was taking a picture of my shoes. And the other one, I was just crouched really low and taking a picture of the truck. So again, just trying out different angles to see what looks most interesting. Number 6, do not, and I say not like capital letters shouting at you, use that zoom feature. Instead, just get closer, while of course maintaining that social distance. What's really, I want to like nail in on here is that when you're using that zoom feature, it's decreasing the quality of your photo instantly. And if you're at home watching this, go ahead and pull out your phone and try to take a picture of something across from you and start zooming in using your little pinch fingers, and you'll start to see, oh my gosh, it's getting blurrier, it's getting blurrier. And also kind of to add to that, it's very similar to when you're taking pictures with a DSLR and you usually have like a tripod or a monopod to help with certain things depending on your focal length because of the camera's shake. Your hand has a little bit of shake unless maybe you're a future surgeon and you've got the steadiest hands in the world, but zooming in is going to create more of that shakiness, and those aren't the photos we want to use in our books. Number 7 might be one of my favorite things, is editing your photos. I am never, well, I can't say never, there's been like one time that I've been happy with a photo right after I've taken it. I'm like, that's perfect, the most amazing thing ever. No, I usually almost edit every little thing, or not every little thing, every photo, to achieve the look that I want it to do. And there's a ton of free apps that you're able to do and use. However, the key there, don't overdo it. You can totally tell when someone has edited something beyond what looks natural. And you are photojournalists. So what you are creating should be documenting things as we see it. And that's one of the things when you're editing, you want to make sure that you're not editing it to kind of make it look crazy and surreal. No, you're editing it to make it a little bit brighter. Or you're editing it to make it a little bit darker because your exposure is off or things like that. So key there is making your photos look natural. Here are 4 apps that I usually have on my phone and utilize going back and forth to different ones. Visco, Snapseed, Lightroom, which is my favorite just because I use Adobe Lightroom for my DSLR photos. I was used to it. You can also add presets and things like that. and then focus. Any of those 4 are free, and I want to kind of hone in again on Lightroom. The fact that Lightroom is free for your mobile device is awesome. If you don't have that one downloaded and you're on the yearbook staff, do it right now or do it right after this so you pay attention to the rest of the presentation. The last tip I want to leave you is just for you Apple users. So Android users, you are off the hook right now. For you Apple users, boo, no, just kidding. So Apple users, you need to make sure your settings are set up correctly. And what I mean by this is that back a few years ago, I can't remember what year exactly, Apple decided to create a new file format that saved space on your phone. What this meant though is that it compressed the photos and made them smaller size, and they're no longer technically a JPEG format. All of us know in the printing world that you want your photos to be the highest quality possible, so that way if you need to make it a little bit larger, it's not going to be printed pixely. You'll go into your camera settings, you'll choose formats, and then under formats, you're going to choose most compatible. And right there, it's giving you that information to reduce file size, capture photos in the high efficiency format. And again, we don't want to do that. Make sure, tell all your friends, tell your parents, choose the most compatible version so that way you get the highest quality photo.
Brooke, that was an awesome presentation. Thanks for joining me and doing that. Like, I know we both share a photography background, but you tend to shoot more on your phone than I do. That's why I wanted to make sure you talked about this, because my phone just, I use it because I have to, not because I want to more than anything. But thanks for presenting. And if you guys have any questions, anything that we missed or didn't hit, feel free to put it in the comments below. That way we can answer it and bring Brooke back for a future video on this topic or another different topic. So thanks again, and hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.